Frank Part 3. When Frank wakes up in the middle of the night and opens his eyes, his gaze wanders to the foot of his bed. There sits a kind of dwarf-like monster with wide-open, glowing red eyes, staring directly and threateningly at him. Drool is dripping from its mouth and has already formed a small puddle in front of its tiny feet, so it must have been sitting there, staring at him for quite some time. It looks a bit like a cross between a gargoyle, a vampire and a wolf, but one that's clearly suffering from hair loss. A truly disgusting, equally unimaginably hideous and ugly thing. Frank ignores it, lays his head back, and closes his eyes. But he can't fall asleep, because the creature at the foot of his bed starts making some ominous and threatening noises. This is too much for Frank. Without even lifting his head, he pulls the blanket from its feet and delivers such an unexpected and powerful kick that it crashes backward several meters into the opposite wall. Immediately, it quickly gets back to its feet and jumps directly at Frank, but he's prepared. Suddenly rears up, grabs it by the neck, and tells it there are only two options. Either the beast will stop this nonsense of its own free will and piss off, or he'll rip its neck off its body. Then he looks at it and finally says he hopes it understands. He's still tired and doesn't have the time right now, and even less desire for such games. Barely out of the blue, he hurls it away from him again and against the wall. He's just about to lie down again when the monster, after initially appearing slightly dazed by the impact, rises up again, opens its wings threateningly and jumps on Frank again. Frank immediately grabs it by the throat, but this time, without saying a single word, he rips off its head in a flash, hurls it, as well as its lifeless body, against the wall and goes back to sleep. When he wakes up the next morning, he calmly gets up, lights a cigarette, and goes straight to the bathroom. He doesn't shower or brush his teeth, but simply runs some water over his hands, dries them, and goes back to the bedroom and gets dressed. Out of the corner of his eye, he notices a figure scurrying from one corner to the other in the next room. In a situation like that, where you're sure that what's lurking within your own four walls isn't just your imagination, a deceptive assumption, but something real, anyone would be overcome with fear. But not Frank. Frank, the filthy bastard, is above such things, no matter how supernatural or even diabolical they may be. Frank calls into the other room that he doesn't have time for such bullshit, and that he or it or whatever it was should get the hell out of there before it gets too much for him, and he comes for it. He has just finished getting dressed when he realizes that something very threatening is standing right behind him and is about to pounce on him. Calmly, he slowly turns around and sees the face of a real monster. Completely unfazed, Frank grabs him by the neck and hurls him against the wall. Then he immediately goes to him, and before he can get up again, Frank stomps on his head. When he sees his shoes soaked in blood, he becomes even angrier and continues to beat him furiously. After letting off some steam, he goes into the hallway and puts on different shoes, yelling at the top of his lungs. Then he hears a horrible voice speaking to him from the other end of the corridor.
Frankie, you don't really think you can take us on, do you? How many more of us do you think you can slay and kill? Our numbers are infinite, and we're all after you. And we're going to get you. Either way, you belong, or should I say, your soul, belongs to us. Don't make this unnecessarily difficult for yourself, Frank. You can put an end to this right now. Come to us, become one of us, for we are the many. Our numbers are infinite.
The ghostly being was still in mid-sentence, and hadn't even finished speaking when Frank was already upon him. It reared up threateningly in front of him and looked at him with annoyed eyes.
I don't give a damn how many of you there are, or even if your numbers are endless. You're getting on my nerves and I can't stand it. So get the hell out of my house and never come back. And believe me, I'm not usually this kind. Now get the hell out of my way before I change my mind.
This threat seems to have had its effect, as the ghost has suddenly disappeared. Completely unaffected, Frank puts on his jacket and leaves his apartment. Once outside, he lights another cigarette and then slowly walks toward the red light district. It's still very early, but one or two hookers are already standing by the side of the road, and Frank strolls among them with interest. Most people know Frank and know that while he's a real creep, he's also a really fair guy. He's always good to women, treats them decently, and just wants to have fun. He has neither sadistic nor any perverse tendencies. Quite the opposite. He always pays good money for good sex. Even though he's never hurt a woman or done anything to them that they didn't agree to, not every woman was happy with him. Because even though he never got physical and never had any desire for such a thing, he was an absolute jerk in bed when it came to his words. Which is why he didn't enjoy the same good reputation with all women. No one could be as mean, as condescending, and as disgusting as Frank during sex. But once he got what he wanted and came, he always behaved really well towards women. Which is why most women didn't leave immediately, and usually just smoked a cigarette with him in peace. One or two of them even helped themselves quite unashamedly to his refrigerator, and Frank always had time for a vodka and lemon. He made an agreement with one of the women, and they went to his apartment together. She immediately sent Frank, as usual, to the bathroom so she could take a shower. This was important to Frank, and he made this non-negotiable condition of every woman he took home with him. As the woman went into the bathroom, Frank, for some reason, remembered his youth. Back then, he must have been around 15, maybe 16, when he went to a brothel for the first time. It was a large building with 5 floors and lots of windows. At each window sat a woman, trying to lure one of the many men into her room who, like predators, were watching for the women below in front of the many windows. Frank's eyes fell on one woman, and he memorized the floor and room number of this woman, whose room numbers were also attached to her windows on thick stickers. He then entered the building and went to the appropriate floor and down the corridor to the room with her room number. He hadn't quite reached her yet when a door opened a few steps in front of him, and out came a man who walked very quickly down the corridor, quite bashfully, without looking at anyone. But since he had left the door open, Frank was able to look into the room as he walked past and saw a beautiful woman sitting naked on her bed, spraying herself with some kind of spray. She sprayed almost the entire contents of the can all over her body. She sprayed it all over her neck, her breasts, and even her pubic area. When Frank realized that she had just fucked a man and yet hadn't even bothered to wash herself, but had simply sprayed herself with some kind of spray can, Frank was so disgusted that he immediately turned around and never went to a brothel again where the women didn't wash themselves properly. For this reason, Frank demanded that all the women he took home first take a proper shower and wash themselves, and that's what she was doing right now in his bathroom, while he boredly smoked a cigarette and sucked on his glass of vodka lemon. At some point she came out of the bathroom, and Frank was already impatient.
Come here, you horny slut. You've kept me waiting long enough. Jump on the bed and suck my dick until it gets big and hard.
But she didn't find it particularly appealing, nor did she make any attempt to come to him. Instead, she stood frozen at the door, staring into space like a stupid goose.
So what is it? Do you finally want to come over here and suck my cock or what?
Frank whispered. But she still didn't say a word and still made no attempt to come over to him. She just pointed in the direction of Frank's back with a strange but extremely frightened look. All right, Frank thought to himself and turned around angrily, and behind him stood an extremely threatening figure, easily a whole head taller than himself. Completely furious, he jumped up and grabbed the figure standing behind him, beating him furiously. The poor and extremely frightened woman took only the bare essentials and ran out of the apartment as if the devil himself were after her, while Frank had long since thrown the figure to the floor and was beating him as if he wanted to beat the shit out of him.
You asshole, you fucking ugly wanker. You just robbed me of a great fuck. Do you really think I'd let you get away with that? Did you really think you were going to come here, ruin my fucking fuck, and then walk away like nothing had happened?
He was still wildly punching and kicking this creature. The creature tried to defend itself, constantly trying to get back on its feet, and repeatedly grabbed at Frank. But he was far too angry and annoyed, and wouldn't let it get up or let him grab it. He beat it to death. At some point it stopped moving. It was long dead before Frank even realized he could stop. And he stopped.
Holy shit, what's wrong with these jerks today? How many have we been here today? Something's not right, something's going terribly wrong. I have to find out what it is. This can't go on.
Annoyed, Frank sits down on his rotten couch, lights a new cigarette, and takes a deep drag. He notices the amount of blood on his hands. Even more annoyed, he puts his cigarette in the full ashtray and goes into the bathroom to wash. He's barely finished washing his hands when he's overcome by an incredibly calming and relieving feeling. But it's so intense that words can't describe it. This feeling is so overwhelming that it's almost completely useless to try to explain it properly to another person. It's a bit like trying to explain the wind to someone who hasn't experienced it. How could you explain what the wind is if they have no idea what it is and therefore can't even imagine it? How could you tell someone what it's like to dive into water if they don't even know what water is? That's more or less what's happening to Frank right now, and all of this with an incredibly stronger, calming effect that could never be put into words. He immediately knows who has just come into his apartment. He takes a deep breath and seems equally pleased. He quickly dries his hands and then goes back into his living room, but can't see anyone. At first, he looks a bit disappointed, but then immediately calls out,
Hey, where are you? I'm glad you're here. It's always incredible, simply indescribable to feel your presence. You know, you're the only one, okay, admittedly, besides JC, whose meeting actually means a lot to me. Man, stop being such a fuss and finally show yourself. Where are you?
As he excitedly rushes to the table, picks up his cigarette and takes a deep drag, he hears an incredibly gentle yet truly sublime voice from behind him telling him to stop. They're going to kill him. Frank immediately breaks into a wide grin that spreads across his face.
Yeah, go fuck yourself. There you are. And that joke was really good. You and me talking about death. Come on, let's sit down. It's really nice of you to visit me. What's the reason for your visit? Is it finally time for me? You're not here to look at my ugly face.
His visitor smiles, yet doesn't lose any of his majesty.
I like coming to visit you, and I really like you. You know that, even if almost no one else likes you. I like you, honestly.
Now stop sweet-talking and don't forget, this thing with you and me isn't going to work out. I mean, I'm well aware of who you are and the power you have. But none of that, my dear, will do you any good if you can't have me. You know I'm not that into guys. Ha ha ha. Tell me, why are you here?
The boss sent me. Or let's say I'm here more on behalf of JC. He's worried about you. You've been acting a bit, let's say, strange lately. Frank, listen, I understand your bitterness. Life is pretty shitty sometimes. But there are a lot of people out there who have had it much worse and still do. And yet, none of them are running around doing what you're doing. You can't just kill random characters all day. I think, my friend, we need to talk about certain things that either aren't entirely clear to you or that you somehow don't seem to give a damn about anymore.
Frank suddenly looks a little annoyed.
Why do I get the impression that you're hiding something from me? What exactly is so strange about my behavior? I have adhered to every single point of our agreement without exception every second, and I'm not currently doing anything that isn't part of that agreement. As far as I know, I'm not allowed to do anything that's for my own personal benefit. And that's exactly what I'm sticking to. Hell, I even pay the hookers I constantly fuck out of my own pocket. It's not like you're paying me a fortune for my work. Do you have any idea how expensive hookers are these days and how much it costs me over and over again? Or do I live in a mansion with tons of cars and even more tits and hookers around me? Just look around at what a dump I live in. I could walk into any lottery shop and become a multi-millionaire in a few days with just one completed form. Or I could get into a certain car, purely by chance of course, and steal all the money that's being illegally transported in it. I would then immediately invest this money in stocks, which would make me one of the richest people in the world in just a few weeks. Or should I go to the nearest casino and play roulette for a whole day? How about that? At least for now, I mean. So that I can get some money that I can then take a step further with. My options are endless, and you know it. So what are you talking about when you accuse me of suspiciously unfair practices? I'm sticking to our agreement and have never taken any advantage of anyone. But fine. If you're no longer interested in the deal, that's fine with me. Then let's end it here and now. Holy crap. I'm working hard here, tangling with the worst people, constantly risking my life, even the damnation of my soul. And you can't think of anything better than to come here and give me a piece of your mind? To lecture me or reprimand me? Really?
Frank, calm down. You know who you're facing here, and I'm your friend, not your enemy. And please do us both a favor and stop over-dramatizing everything, okay? You still don't understand that you shouldn't be telling me so much nonsense. Or do you know something I don't already know? There's nothing in this world that I don't know and don't know. No one can read people as thoroughly as I can. I can see the thoughts of all beings. Even before they think, I already know what they will say and do. So, what kind of nonsense are you telling me? Haven't we actually come a long way here by now? Listen, this is about something completely different. Yes, we have an agreement, and yes, in return, you've been given certain abilities that you're supposed to be able to use to fulfill your duties. And no, none of us believes you've ever done anything for your own personal benefit. So let's skip that part. But still, there's one point we're not entirely sure you understand as clearly as you should. Listen, if you don't know the truth, you can't recognize a lie. You know that. And if you don't know what's bad, you can't know what's good. Thus, humans are, let's say, creatures of comparison. Without a standard, they can't make a true comparison or properly classify anything. Without the opposite, they can't form a true picture of the whole. Think of JC. He told people everything a long time ago. And what happened? People persecuted and slaughtered those among them who followed his words most closely. He forbade people from eating meat, and what did the Pope do? This commandment has been suspended. What I mean by that is that there is a specific reason why you were given these powers, and that you have a specific mission. I want to go back a little further in human history and just remember the world of Mu. There, too, we educated people about certain things and created a paradise for them. But in the end, they succumbed to greed, and that world went down the drain. Later, the same thing happened with Atlantis. And the funny thing is, they still believe Atlantis was a kind of continent, but people drove that world, too, into the abyss. And now we're on the verge of losing this planet. The balance is slowly tipping in this world, too. The number of those who no longer have any empathy for their fellow human beings is growing with each passing day. And if this world consists only of egoists and self-important idiots, then we will lose this world too. People simply seem incapable of meeting one another on the basis of humanity. They prefer to degenerate into nations, peoples, and religions. And with that comes the greatest danger of all. People are losing all empathy for one another. They look the other way when injustice is done to supposedly others. They simply accept it. They don't realize that they are all connected. It seems impossible for them to understand, to simply grasp that their own spiritual salvation lies in the salvation of others and not themselves. To prevent this point, we chose you. You are the best example of how a complete scumbag can also be capable of truly good things. By the way, has anyone ever told you that you're a drama queen? You have a thing for the dramatic, don't you? So stop making everything up. Don't talk nonsense. You know you can't die as long as our agreement stands. Frank, calm down. You know who you're facing here, and I'm your friend, not your enemy. And please do us both a favor and stop over-dramatizing everything, okay? You still don't understand that you shouldn't be telling me so much nonsense. Or do you know something I don't already know? There's nothing in this world that I don't know and don't know. No one can read people as thoroughly as I can. I can see the thoughts of all beings. Even before they think, I already know what they will say and do. So, what kind of nonsense are you telling me? Haven't we actually come a long way here by now? Listen, this is about something completely different. Yes, we have an agreement, and yes, in return, you've been given certain abilities that you're supposed to be able to use to fulfill your duties. And no, none of us believes you've ever done anything for your own personal benefit. So let's skip that part. But still, there's one point we're not entirely sure you understand as clearly as you should. Listen, if you don't know the truth, you can't recognize a lie. You know that, and if you don't know what's bad, you can't know what's good. Thus, humans are, let's say, creatures of comparison. Without a standard, they can't make a true comparison or properly classify anything. Without the opposite, they can't form a true picture of the whole. Think of JC. He told people everything a long time ago. And what happened? People persecuted and slaughtered those among them who followed his words most closely. He forbade people from eating meat, and what did the Pope do? This commandment has been suspended. What I mean by that is that there is a specific reason why you were given these powers, and that you have a specific mission. I want to go back a little further in human history and just remember the world of Mu. There, too, we educated people about certain things and created a paradise for them. But in the end, they succumbed to greed, and that world went down the drain. Later, the same thing happened with Atlantis. And the funny thing is, they still believe Atlantis was a kind of continent, but people drove that world, too, into the abyss. And now we're on the verge of losing this planet. The balance is slowly tipping in this world, too. The number of those who no longer have any empathy for their fellow human beings is growing with each passing day. And if this world consists only of egoists and self-important idiots, then we will lose this world too. People simply seem incapable of meeting one another on the basis of humanity. They prefer to degenerate into nations, peoples, and religions. And with that comes the greatest danger of all. People are losing all empathy for one another. They look the other way when injustice is done to supposedly others. They simply accept it. They don't realize that they are all connected. It seems impossible for them to understand, to simply grasp that their own spiritual salvation lies in the salvation of others and not themselves. To prevent this point, we chose you. You are the best example of how a complete scumbag can also be capable of truly good things. By the way, has anyone ever told you that you're a drama queen? You have a thing for the dramatic, don't you? So stop making everything up. Don't talk nonsense. You know you can't die as long as our agreement stands.
Well, thank you so much for that.
Come on, Frank. You know exactly what I mean. But let's get back to the topic. There are two reasons why the world can end. The first reason is the lack of empathy among humans toward all life. The second reason, and this is where you come in, is when we interfere in this world. We can't interfere without breaking the golden rule that none of us, regardless of which side we're on, may interfere in this dimension. That's why we chose you.
In other words, I do your dirty work. But hey, no offense, I like doing it, honestly.
I wish I had your lightness, Frank.
What are you saying? Are you serious? I don't believe it. Dude, you're the one the other power desperately wanted to win over, and you still want nothing more than that. As long as you exist, the other side can never truly win. So, as far as I understand, you're the big boss's equal. At least in terms of the importance of the roles in this whole thing. And you're actually telling me you'd like my lightness? Unbelievable, honestly.
Frank, you know what kind of beings are out there. They're so much worse than all the fictional characters in the worst horror stories. And they thirst for people's blood, for their souls, if people only knew what threatens them. But let's leave that aside. Listen, these beings can't act directly in this world, can't directly intervene in events. But the number of those who keep trying is growing. You've already experienced that today alone. They're becoming more and more unashamed of themselves, even to the living. The woman earlier could also see this being. I mean, it doesn't matter if you can see them, but for normal people, they should be invisible, and they shouldn't be able to influence people or harm them. But the number of these beings who don't keep to their agreements is growing with every minute. When they no longer keep to their agreements and act directly in this world, only then can we officially intervene, and then it's the end for these beings, and they'll be sent to hell forever. But our problem is the runaways. They're the ones you're supposed to take care of. But we would really appreciate it if you could do something like that a bit more subtly. You can't let it get as far as it did before. Humans mustn't be seen, let alone frightened by these creatures. So please, next time, make sure no innocents are harmed. That's all we want from you. And please, Frank, I know you just can't help being an asshole. But please try to be a little less of an asshole.
Frank looked a little more amused now and was visibly relieved.
So that's why you're honoring me with your visit? In my defense, I neither provoked this thing nor did I let it happen. I didn't even know one of those creatures was in my apartment. And as for them flying away and vanishing into thin air, I had no choice both times. Or would you rather I get arrested and then you have to bail me out of jail? Besides, you have to consider how disastrous it could end if I get arrested and some faggots behind bars want to have sex with me. You know I'd then ignore every rule and rip everyone's dicks off and stick them in their faces if they came on to me. But fine, whatever you want. As long as I don't have to go to jail, I promise to be a little more subtle next time. If I can manage it, of course. You know the situations yourself. Things don't always go according to plan. And sometimes you just have to improvise a little. You get the idea. So, how's JC doing? Would you please do me a favor and give him my best? I don't know why, but I really like him. There's something, let's say, divine about him, even though I don't believe in God. But you get the idea. Please don't be mad at me, but you can really go now. I haven't had a chance to fuck a delicious wet pussy yet today. I'm really busy on the line. If you understand.
End of part 3.